What up, YouTube? Ignore that goddamn weird transition that just happened. Need you to do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that bell. We almost to 1,000. Let's rock. You saw the title of the video, so I don't gotta explain it to you. Tim Pool. Every day the cultural divide gets worse. If we want to end the culture war, we have to compromise on abortion and gender-affirming surgeries. As the leftists sterilize and excise their children from society, because excise isn't the correct word there. Their children from society, the course will begin to correct itself. Once Moloch is satisfied, our culture will heal. This account said, on the topics of abortion and transgenderism, we don't take any compromises that are in the direction of the left. We have already ceded enough ground, and the only thing the left will interpret as a compromise is ceding even more ground. We fight the good fight, and if we lose, then I guess your argument is the consolation prize. But we don't set out with compromising as the goal. We've been doing that for forever, and it's been a losing game. More is never enough for progressives, and it will never be. Or, as Tim pointed out, you compromise and allow them to off themselves. Still evil, and they won't be satisfied to live their own lives the way they see fit. They eventually want to be able to force you to live your life the way they see fit. Tolerance, acceptance, celebration, participation, conversion. I want to break this down. And I want to tell you what's coming, what's here right now, and what we're going to do about it. So let's break it down. Every day the cultural divide gets worse. If we want to end the culture war, we have to compromise on abortion and gender-affirming surgeries. Okay, the first part is, that's not the culture war. That's not the culture war. You know how I know it's not the culture war? Because you and a bunch of others weren't talking about this a couple years ago. And normally for you to assume a position inside of a socio-economic conversation, you will indeed need to have spent at least a good year talking about something. Why I say a year? Because we produce content. Tim has a podcast, Tim has a show, whatever, he calls himself a journalist, blah, blah, blah. I would have had to know you were in the arena of conversation before we could get to a point where you can make a declaration like this. I know for a fact that that's not what the culture war is. The culture war is between, and let's be honest here, socialism or democratic socialism and fascism. The right-wing party of the United States allowed the weird dude to take advantage of it, galvanize their base in one direction, and there's really no way to turn them in a different direction without saying the quiet part out loud. You know, the thing that they like to say all the time, the silent majority. This is why I'm trying to have this conversation in speed with you, because if I were to go backwards 2 years, I could be like, yeah, take a look at like what the actual points were that they were making and how much they didn't care about that because they just moved on from that to this. Don't want to do that to you. I want to treat you like a smart individual. We have to compromise on abortion and gender-affirming surgeries. Both of those things inside of a culture war are not factors that matter to people who are on strike, people who are filibustering bills, people who do not like the GOP gerrymandering, people who do not like the GOP economics, people who do not like liberal stances on certain policies, people who don't like the way we just ended the COVID emergency. Like, it leads me to say that the statement itself is inflammatory because it doesn't exist outside of his world. And I just say, if you have a following of almost 2 million people, if you're the so-called best talk show, etc., this and that, you wouldn't make inflammatory statements that couldn't be backed up with the proper rhetoric. Republicans do not need to concede on abortion. There is no concession here. If some abortions are okay, all are. And since everybody seems to be getting them, why are we revisiting this conversation? Therefore, the striking down of Roe v. Wade is what you're actually attacking, which means you're doing this in bad faith. That wouldn't end the culture war because the Supreme Court would have to do something about it. The culture war is not about abortion then, because that is unattainable to citizens. The argument is about how doctors perform things. And as you see in some states where it's legal, the people who are trying to make it illegal are chasing down those who are going to legal states, which brings about a whole conversation about marijuana and drug trafficking, all these other questions in the play. Not going to do that today. I trust that you know where that argument goes. So if the first part of your sentence isn't true, then now I have to look at the second part, because if the culture war has nothing to do with abortion, then what the hell else could you attach it to? Gender affirming surgeries. The culture war is not about gender affirming surgeries, because you said out of your mouth you don't care what adults do. Don't push it on children. Remember that? So if that happens, you're still going to have gender affirming surgeries. We could agree on that. The ground you wish to concede on is having trans people around children because you don't like trans people, which is just a reformation of the gay panic. Therefore, if we're past gay people getting married, transgenderism should have nothing to do with you, because it's such a minute portion of the population that there's no way you're making an actual argument on the normies who don't want to transition because they're not fucking trans, and those who do. And transgenderism, being a transgender person, does not require you to have gender affirming surgery. Because if you want to open up gender affirming surgeries, we're going to have to talk about plastic surgery, stuff like that. So you're putting these two titles inside of a sentence when the culture war has nothing to do with them, and I just proved that. What are you doing then? Follow to the third sentence. As the leftists sterilize and excise their children from society, the course will begin to correct itself. What a way to say you want a genocide. Oh, Paradigm, you're reaching. How the hell did you get from there to there? Well, we've already proved that the cultural divide he's talking about has to be between people and not actual cultures, because political standings shouldn't be culture wars. If we want to end a culture war, we have to compromise on abortion and gender affirming surgeries. Okay, if you're saying that the right has to cede ground to the left, what if you didn't? Then what would you have? Not it at all? Oh, so if you're saying a problem doesn't exist and the only way to end it from your side is to let them do it, the opposite is the course correcting itself would be them dying off. Wonder if we could speed that up anyway. Genocide. That's why you're getting weirder about LGB drop the TQ. You split the community, you put up a bunch of fake people saying a bunch of fake shit, and you're able to create animosity towards a part of a group, knowing full well that that animosity will leak into other people. You tried that shit with Sam Smith. You're trying it right now with Kim Petras. This is what's happening. So now I've told you what's coming. I've told you what's literally being said. How are we going to deal with it? Well, first, we're going to have these conversations where and I'm going to repeat this again, I really do think leftist coalition, whether it's Hassan, whether it's a couple other people, we consistently be on these niggas' asses about this. When they say shit like this out loud, we all make 15-second clips explaining how that shit is bullshit. Let's make TikToks and pop off on it and keep replying to these motherfuckers till they block us. We make the burner accounts. We get the system for that. Don't let them get away with it. Because when you go onto these people's shows to debate them, look what happens. Lance debated him. Oh, Lance did great, and oh, this and that, and da-da-da-da-da. But what was proven? What was shifted? What was changed? He's still saying this shit. We need to create a new focus on explaining to people when they read these things. Yo, I want you to pay attention to this and break that down in your head. And don't do that shit where you type online to me. Pull up. Let's get these virtual town halls rocking. Let's get these people in the hot seat. Yo, you always ask the questions. We always be on your show. How about you pull up to this location? It's going to be 17 of us. We going to figure it out. But anyway, Tim Pool's a fucking fascist. I don't know how to explain this to you anymore.